Medine.
And so that's always going to be there. The claims are always going to be there. I think that what we need to do is invest in communities across the United States, including the Latinx community, with a 365-day push. And we can see progress. I mean, I know that it was disappointing in Florida, like in Texas, but I would not ascribe that to certain
you want to go to Djibouti?
I think we're going to have to do a deep dive and understand fully what happened there.
Before we let you go, I have to ask, would you see yourself taking another role in this administration? You served in the Obama administration. Ready for another go?
You know, I haven't put anything on the table or taken anything off the table. That's, of course, the decision of the president-elect.
Go down, go
but
here.
I do believe that he's going to have a great team.
Walnut.
And the American people are ready for a competent and effective president, which I'm sure that Joe Biden is going to be.
That's Julian Castro. He's a former Secretary of Housing and Urban Development in the Obama administration. He's a former mayor of San Antonio and a former candidate for the Democratic nomination for president himself in 2020. Mr. Castro, thank you so much for speaking with us once again.
Thank you.
Secretary Castro mentioned that so many people are celebrating today, and that is certainly correct, since something around 75 million Americans, maybe more, voted for Joe Biden. But, of course, we need to note that something around 70 million Americans, and that count could also go up, voted for President Trump, and many have a different view today. We're going to hear from some of them now because NPR's Eric Westervelt has been at protests in Arizona's state capital, Phoenix. Hey there, Eric.
Hi, Steve.
And I want to remind people, Arizona has been called for Joe Biden, although not all the ballots have been counted, and there have been protests around the count in Arizona. Where have you been and what have you been seeing?
Well, Steve, I was at some protests both at the local election center where they were doing the counting and at the Capitol here in Phoenix. And, you know, Trump supporters expressed anger, defiance. They are simply not buying that this race is over and that Joe Biden has won. There was a sense of disbelief and anger. I mean, they see this call for Biden, at least those at this rally today, as does the president, as fraudulent, as hasty, and wrong. And they sort of echoed the sentiments of the president in calling this really a conspiracy by Democrats, the media, big tech, and Silicon Valley. They've lashed out at all of those at the rally today. They allege that this election was stolen. They see a massive fraud and a conspiracy. We have to say, as we have many times, there's not evidence of any evidence of widespread fraud. At a rally at the Capitol here in Phoenix today, Steve, it was called Stop the Steal.
Although it's still red light.
We heard from one supporter, Rod Savvy.
I will never accept Biden-Harris as my president. Not with this kind of cloud hanging over. It's all fraud. Audit it all. I'll guarantee you, if you audit all these states, these swing states, actually went in there and audited and threw out all the dead people.
Then we turned right on water.
Else, Trump wouldn't be losing. Just like he wasn't losing on election night. This is the biggest fraud in America.
Eric Westervelt, I feel obliged to say a few things. One, that the whole thing about dead people voting is an old joke. It's gone on for a long time. For all we know, it's happened here and there. But this is a process that, in fact, is audited, that is overseen by Democrats as well as Republicans. Whoever's in control of a particular state, it's very common for the election process to be bipartisan, for other party to be in the room, and for independent observers even to be in the room. So there's absolutely no evidence for what that person is saying, yet he seems convinced that if somebody looked into it, there would be anything. I take from that phrasing that he has no idea of any evidence whatsoever either, does he?
Yes, when you press them on, what is the evidence here, and you say there are bipartisan troops of election officials who are doing the auditing, who have done the counting, what is your evidence of fraud? They just come back with broad, vague assertions that, dead people voted, that there were fraud, that, trucks in the night. Some of it really does veer on outlandish conspiracy theories that have very little grounding in reality.
Now, if there is any evidence, thank you very much, Eric Westervelt in Phoenix, really appreciate your reporting. If there is any evidence of fraud, there is a forum where we can find out about it, and that is a court of law. And there are, in fact, legal challenges that President Trump's campaign has pursued in recent days. In fact, there are some legal challenges involving voting rules even before the formal election day. NPR's Miles Parks has been following all of that, and he joins us next. Hey there, Miles.
Hey, Steve.
So has the media call at all changed the legal strategy by the Trump campaign here so far as you know? They've been saying they want to fight everything.
Left.
Right, and they continue to see. And that's been kind of the line
keep going straight. Straight.
Tuesday or Wednesday. They filed a number of lawsuits, but it's important to note that, broadly speaking, almost none of the lawsuits have been successful in having any meaningful change on the counting process or the results at all. When you talk to legal experts, they seem to say that they weren't even aimed at really actually having an effect on the election results. Instead, they were aimed more at building a narrative around the concept of fraud to kind of bend reality around President Trump's claims.
Let's bring up one of President Trump's claims. I know this to be false, but it's been placed in front of me, so I'm going to say these false words, and you can tell me how true it is. The observers, this is a tweet from the president today in the last few minutes. The observers were not allowed into the counting rooms. I won the election. Were there observers in counting rooms? Wasn't it even possible to watch counting rooms? Yeah, I just saw this on my phone as well. There are. I mean, his campaign, this has been a central theme of a lot of the campaigns. Or, excuse me, a lot of the lawsuits the campaign has filed.
No, turn right.
That there's not enough transparency in the elections process. I want to be clear, the elections process is almost annoyingly transparent in the sense that you can go and watch election officials just do about anything they're doing here. And
keep going.
Usually mundane, but there are election officials, Republican and Democrat, who basically make these rules, and the rules say that election watchers from both political parties can be a part of the vote counting process when you're verifying signatures, all of these things. There are members of the parties watching in every situation, and in the lawsuits they filed related to this quote-unquote lack of transparency, they actually have not brought any evidence that has swayed any courts. They have asked courts in Michigan to stop vote counting, and both times courts immediately rejected that request as basically ridiculous.
So the president has not brought forth any evidence.
Timberline is very close. Oh, there it is.
Continues. However, the race has been called for Joe Biden, 290 electoral votes so far, and he may have a few more there.
4117.
Thanks, Steve.
And you're listening to live coverage of the election of President-elect Joe Biden. We'll have more right here on NPR News.
Support for KERA comes from you, our members, and from Preservation Tree Services. Skilled tree pruning can help prevent severe storm damage. Preservation Tree Services can manage tree hazards, property clearance, tree bracing, pruning needs, and complicated tree removals. More at preservationtree.com. T Magazine, the November Best Docs issue, is out now on newsstands and online at tmagazine.com.
4013. Keep going.
This is member-supported public radio for North Texas, KERA 90.1. You can become a member anytime at kera.org. We are your source for NPR News and the BBC World Service. This is 90.1 KERA, Dallas, Fort Worth, Denton. Streaming at kera.org. KERA, go public.
This is special coverage from All Things Considered and NPR News. I'm Michelle Martin.
And I'm Steve Inskeep. Former Vice President Joe Biden is now the president-elect. Biden was declared the winner by the Associated Press, Fox News, and numerous other news organizations earlier today. He has at least 290 electoral votes, with more possibly to come.
President-elect Biden is expected to speak this evening from his home state of Delaware. Earlier today, he issued a brief statement saying he was honored and humbled by the trust the American people have placed in him. Across the country, Biden supporters have been celebrating. We'll hear more reactions this hour. Plus, with the Democrat headed to the White House, how will the progressive and moderate wings of the party reach consensus on big policy issues? We'll ask a roundtable of Democrats this hour. That plus more analysis from NPR. Stay with us. Live from NPR News, I'm Janine Herbst. After a bitter election season, Joe Biden has defeated President Trump and is now the 46th president of the United States. As NPR's Scott Detrow reports, the Associated Press called Pennsylvania and its 20 electoral votes for Biden, giving him the votes he needs to win the Electoral College.
Voters all over America cast ballots for more than a month leading up to Election Day, but when it came to the order of counting the votes, it was Pennsylvania that gave Biden the electoral votes to win the White House. The Commonwealth took days to sort through more than 2 million mail-in ballots cast amid the pandemic. The result is fitting. Biden kicked off his campaign in Philadelphia and held his very last rally in Pittsburgh. He spent Election Day visiting his hometown of Scranton, stopping to linger in the house he grew up in. Now Pennsylvania sends Biden to the White House. Biden ended up winning back all 3 so-called blue wall states that President Trump took in 2016. Pennsylvania, along with Michigan and Wisconsin. The win will make Biden the oldest ever president. Scott Detrow, NPR News.
And the news has had people celebrating in cities around the country. In Washington, D.C., people gathered on the National Mall and streamed onto Black Lives Matter Plaza near the White House, waving signs and taking cell phone pictures while cheering and honking their horns. Similar scenes played out in other cities, including Philadelphia. NPR's Windsor Johnston is there.
It's been a continuous celebration here in Philadelphia. People are cheering and cars are honking their horns as they drive by. Others are celebrating, popping open bottles of champagne and throwing confetti. One woman told me that this is where democracy was born in 1776 and where it was saved in 2020. Another guy said this is the best news in Philly since the Eagles won the Super Bowl.
NPR's Windsor Johnston reporting from Philadelphia. And President-elect Biden is vowing to shore up America's alliances and rejoin international agreements. NPR's Michelle Kellerman reports on what a new foreign policy might look like.